Hello everyone, I narrate for Hrafkil Tryggvason, who is the Managing Director and an instructor for SUS Education.
Now we're going into the three I's. That's interest rates, inflation, and indexation. Interest rates. The simplest way we can think of it is the following example. We borrow 10 apples and pay 1 apple in 1 year. Equals 10% interest. Interest rates. To borrow 10 apples, pay 1 apple in 1 year. Equals 10% interest. Inflation. A payment corresponds to 11 apples, but not more than 10 apples. Then inflation is 10%. Indexation. You deposit 10 apples on a bank and inflation is 1 apple. Then there are 11 apples in 1 year. What are interest rates? Interest rates are explained as an annual percentage of principal. They are calculated by dividing the interest rate figure by the principal, which can change with the inflation rate and the central bank's interest rate policy. Interest number divided by capital gives you interest rate. If we take, for example, interest number is 10% and the capital is 100, then the interest rate is 10%. What are the bank interest rates? Changes in the interest rates include, among other things, changes in the financing costs, credit terms, of the bank, operating costs, public levies, and/or unforeseen costs, the central bank policy rate, and changes in the consumer price index. About real interest rate is the big issue. We can think about nominal interest rate 5%, inflation 3%, real interest rate 5% minus 3% equals 2%, which is very high. In countries that have real interest rate much higher, and it is a big issue in those countries, because they fight with indexation and the interest rate. Real interest rate nominal rates minus inflation or 2%. These are in a way simple calculations. In our savings accounts it's common for interest to be very low or below the inflation rate. We have an inflation which is on average X% per last year. So if you take an overdraft loan on, for example, 12% and the inflation 2%, the real interest rate is 10%. If you have a debit card which has, for sake of argument, 0.15% interest but 2% inflation, the real interest rate will be minus 1.85%. With this you can easily see how negative this is, and the public needs to know and figure this out. We will not go into that issue any further now. The real interest rate is in fact the payment you are directly paying for your investment, which will have its interest rate at X%. Therefore, let the bank or the investor tell you who they are and other interest rate costs and other costs. Rule 72 is the quickest way to find the number of years needed to double your money in terms of annual returns. The rule asserts that you share the interest rate as a percentage of 72. The number of years you need to double your investment equals 72 divided by years interest.